The champagne glass sat untouched before me, its golden bubbles rising like tiny prayers I no longer believed in. My name is Berkeley. I'm 68 years old, and I'd just sold my cybersecurity company for $62 million. The Golden Heights restaurant sparkled around me with its crystal chandeliers and mahogany panels, but all I could see were the empty chairs where my son Nathan and his wife Christina had been sitting moments ago. That's when Antonio, the security guard, approached my table with a look that changed everything. He leaned close and whispered the words that shattered my world. "Sir, I saw your son pour something into your orange juice." The evening had started so beautifully. Nathan had raised his glass high, his brown eyes shining with what I thought was pride. To my father, he'd announced to the nearby tables, who built an empire from nothing and proved that hard work and integrity still mean something in this world. Christina, my daughter-in-law of 3 years, had placed her manicured hand over mine, her smile so warm I'd felt blessed to have her in our family. We'd ordered the finest meal Golden Heights had to offer. Nathan insisted on selecting the wine, a Chateau Margaux, that cost more than most people's monthly salary. He kept refilling my glass, encouraging me to celebrate. "You've earned this, Dad," he said. $62 million. Do you realize what this means? You'll never have to worry about anything again. The irony of those words haunts me now. 3 months earlier, when I'd first announced the pending sale of CyberShield Solutions, Nathan's reaction had been immediate and intense. He'd driven up from Los Angeles that very night, bursting into my Marin County home with a bottle of champagne and 1,000 questions. As a financial advisor at Wellington Associates, he claimed he wanted to ensure I maximized my windfall. "Dad, you need proper wealth management." He'd insisted spreading documents across my kitchen table. "I see too many entrepreneurs lose everything because they don't plan properly. Let me help you set up the right trusts, the right investments. You've worked for 40 years building this company. Now let me help you protect what you've earned." His attention had been flattering. Since Martha, my wife of 42 years, had passed away 5 years ago, Nathan and I had drifted into a comfortable but distant routine. We spoke weekly, saw each other monthly, shared the polite conversations of adults who loved each other but had forgotten how to connect. His sudden interest in my daily life felt like a gift. He started calling every morning, asking about my health, my plans, my meetings with the buyers. Weekend visits became regular. He'd arrive Friday evening with groceries, cooking elaborate meals, while Christina regaled me with stories from her work as an interior designer. They'd stay through Sunday, Nathan helping with yard work, while Christina reorganized my closets, both of them, filling my empty house with laughter and energy. Mom would be so happy to see us like this. Nathan had said one evening, finding me looking at our family photos. He'd picked up the picture from his college graduation, where Martha stood between us, her face glowing with pride. "She always said I worked too much, that I'd regret not spending more time with you." I'd embraced him, then feeling like I had my son back. Martha's words echoed in my memory. "Nathan loves you, Berkeley, but be careful. Money has a way of changing people, showing you who they really are." I'd dismissed her concern back then, thinking she was being overly cautious. Nathan had always been ambitious, yes, but he was my son, my blood. The boy I'd taught to ride a bike, who'd cried on my shoulder when his first girlfriend broke his heart, who'd stood tall at his mother's funeral and held me when I couldn't hold myself. The security guard's words brought me crashing back to the present. Antonio was a large man, probably in his 50s, with kind eyes that held a sadness I recognized. He glanced around nervously before pulling out his phone. "Mr. Berkeley, I shouldn't get involved, but I have a daughter your son's age. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't say something." He showed me his phone screen, and my blood turned to ice. The video was clear, despite the restaurant's mood lighting. Nathan, my Nathan, carefully extracting a small glass vial from his inner suit pocket. His movements were practiced efficient. Christina stood close, her body blocking the view from other tables, while she pretended to adjust her shawl. Nathan's hand moved over my orange juice, the clear liquid disappearing into the golden citrus. "There's more," Antonio said quietly. "Your daughter-in-law, I recognized her from a bulletin we received 6 months ago. A man died at Chez Laurent after dining with a young woman. The police couldn't prove anything, but they circulated her photo to all high-end restaurants. Different hair color now, but same face, same eyes." My hands trembled as I set down the phone. The orange juice sat before me, innocent-looking, deadly. Through the window, I could see Nathan and Christina on the restaurant's terrace, dancing to the soft jazz from the outdoor speakers. They moved together, perfectly practiced partners in more than just dance. The devastating truth crashed over me in waves. Every moment of the past 3 months took on new meaning. Nathan's sudden devotion, Christina's sweet attentiveness, the questions about my health, my medications, my daily routine. They hadn't been reconnecting with me. They'd been studying me, preparing. Antonio touched my shoulder gently. "I've already called my supervisor. We can contact the police quietly. But sir, you need to leave, now. Don't drink anything, don't eat anything, just go." I looked at my son through the window one more time. He was spinning Christina, both of them laughing. They looked so normal, so happy, so young and full of life. How many times had I imagined grandchildren with Nathan's eyes and Christina's smile? How many nights had I fallen asleep content, knowing that despite losing Martha, I still had family? The champagne bubbles continued their ascent in my untouched glass, each one carrying away another illusion about the son I thought I knew. I left cash on the table, probably too much, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking long enough to count bills. The valet brought my Tesla, and I managed to keep my composure until I'd driven 3 blocks from Golden Heights. Then I had to pull over. My chest felt tight, not from poison, but from the crushing weight of betrayal. Harrison Blackwood answered on the second ring, even though it was past 10 o'clock. We'd been friends since law school, though he'd chosen the courtroom while I'd chosen the computer lab. "Berkeley, what's wrong? You sound—" "I need you, now. My son just tried to kill me." The silence lasted only a heartbeat. "Where are you?" "Downtown, heading home." "No, come to my office. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. And Berkeley, don't go home." Harrison's corner office overlooked the Bay City lights, reflecting off the dark water like scattered diamonds. He was already there when I arrived, along with a woman I didn't recognize. She was perhaps 50, with silver-streaked hair pulled back severely and eyes that missed nothing. "Berkeley, this is Margaret Stone," Harrison said. "Former FBI, now the best private investigator on the West Coast. I filled her in on what you told me." Margaret shook my hand firmly. "Mr. Berkeley, I know this is overwhelming, but time is critical. Tell me everything." I recounted the evening Antonio's warning the video. Margaret took notes on a tablet, occasionally asking for clarification. When I finished, she was already typing rapidly. "I'll need access to your financial records, insurance policies, medical files. Everything from the last year." She looked up. "I know that seems invasive, but whoever your son is working with, the words stuck in my throat. A man with your resources doesn't just wake up one day and decide to poison his father. This kind of thing requires planning materials knowledge. Your daughter-in-law's appearance at another suspicious death suggests a pattern." Her fingers flew across the tablet. "Catherine Mills. That's her real name. Born Catherine Ann Mills in Riverside 34 years ago. I'm seeing 2 previous marriages, both to significantly older men with wealthy families." My stomach churned. "What happened to them?" "Thomas Ashford married 2018. Died 2020 from apparent heart failure. His father had died 6 months earlier in a home invasion." Margaret's expression grew grimmer. "Robert Dunham married 2021. Died 2022 from a rare blood disorder. His father had passed away 3 months before in a car accident." Both men inherited substantial estates shortly before their own deaths. Harrison poured me a scotch from his office bar. "Drink this. You're in shock." "How long has she been planning this with Nathan?" I managed to ask. Margaret pulled up more records. "Your son met Catherine Christina at a financial planning seminar in Los Angeles 4 years ago. She was using the name Christina Morgan, then working as a freelance interior designer. They married 13 months later." She paused, studying her screen. "Berkeley, has Nathan mentioned any financial troubles?" "No. He drives a BMW, lives in a good neighborhood. Always seemed successful." "Surface appearances." Margaret turned her tablet toward me. "Nathan owes $800,000 to some very unpleasant people. Sports betting underground poker games. He's been hiding it well, but he's desperate. These aren't the kind of creditors who accept payment plans." The scotch burned, but not as much as the revelation. "How do you know all this so quickly?" "I maintain certain connections. The dark web tells stories that financial statements hide." She pulled up another screen. "This is worse. 6 weeks ago, Nathan took out a $5 million life insurance policy on you. Forged your signature. He's been paying the premiums, waiting for the contestability period to pass." Contestability period. Harrison leaned forward. "Insurance companies can investigate and deny claims for fraud within the first 2 years. But there's often a shorter window, 60 to 90 days, where they're most vigilant. Nathan's policy has a 7-day window remaining. After that, even suspicious deaths become harder to challenge." 7 days, I repeated numbly. Margaret was typing again. "There's security footage I need to access. Building cameras, traffic monitors. Give me 6 hours and I'll have everything." She looked at me intently. "Where were you planning to stay tonight?" Home, I suppose." "No." Her tone brooked no argument. "They'll expect you there. Probably planned for it. Harrison, can you arrange a secure location?" While Harrison made calls, Margaret showed me additional findings. Nathan's office building security footage enhanced and time-stamped. My son meeting with known criminals in the parking garage. The audio was partially obscured, but enhanced fragments were clear enough. "Old man won't see his 69th birthday?" And "Have your money within the week." Each revelation felt like another weight on my chest. The son I'd raised taught right from wrong, sacrificed for he'd become someone I didn't recognize. Or perhaps he'd always been this person, and I'd been too blind to see it. Harrison returned. "I've arranged a suite at the Fairmont under an assumed name. Security will be waiting." "I need to go home," I said. "There are things—" "No." Margaret's interruption was sharp. "That's exactly what they're counting on. You go home, have a nightcap, maybe take your evening medications. How many opportunities have they had to tamper with things there? Your food, your medicines, your water supply." The full scope of my vulnerability hit me. 3 months of Nathan and Christina having access to my home, my routines, my life. Every meal they'd cooked, every drink they'd poured, every vitamin they'd reminded me to take. "We need to get you to a hospital," Harrison said. "Blood tests, toxicology screening." "Quietly," Margaret added. "If Nathan realizes you know, he might accelerate his timeline or disappear entirely. We need him to believe his plan is working." As we prepared to leave, Margaret's phone buzzed. She answered, listened. Then her face went pale. "Are you certain? Yes, send me everything." She looked at me with something approaching sympathy. "Berkeley. The gambling debts might not be real, at least not in the way we thought. My contact found communications between Nathan and Catherine from 2 years ago. They've been planning this since before they married. The debts, the desperate criminals, it's all theater designed to give Nathan a believable motive if questioned later." "Then why?" My voice broke. "If he doesn't owe money, why would he?" "Because $62 million is a lot of motive all by itself," Margaret said softly. "And because Catherine Mills is very, very good at what she does. She finds men with complicated relationships with their fathers, men who feel overlooked or undervalued. She becomes everything they need, supports their grievances, and slowly guides them toward a solution that benefits everyone. Except, of course, the fathers who end up dead. I thought of Nathan at his mother's funeral, stone-faced while I sobbed. The distance that had grown between us afterward, him returning to Los Angeles so quickly, leaving me alone in our empty house. Had his resentment started then? Or earlier, during all those business trips I'd taken, all those missed Little League games I'd tried to make up for later? Margaret seemed to read my thoughts. Don't. This isn't about your failings as a father. This is about two predators who've perfected their hunt. Nathan made his choice, but he made it because Catherine guided him there, step by careful step. We left through Harrison's private elevator, emerging into a parking garage where a nondescript sedan waited. As San Francisco's lights blurred past the windows, I wondered if Nathan was still dancing with his wife, still laughing at their perfect execution, still planning ways to spend money that blood would buy. The hardest truth wasn't that my son had tried to kill me. It was that he'd smiled while doing it. The Fairmont suite was elegant, but felt like a prison. I'd spent the night staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction with Nathan over the past months. Dr. Patricia Reeves arrived at dawn, discreet and efficient. The blood tests confirmed Margaret's suspicions: thallium poisoning, low-level but consistent exposure over several weeks. "You're lucky," she said, preparing an injection. "A few more weeks at this level, and the damage would have been irreversible. This chelation therapy will help your body eliminate the toxin, but you'll need several sessions. Will they notice I'm getting better?" She considered this. Thallium poisoning causes fatigue, hair loss, neurological symptoms. You've probably been feeling weak lately. I nodded, remembering how I'd attributed my exhaustion to stress from the company sale. Keep displaying those symptoms. Shuffle when you walk. Complain about confusion. Let them see what they expect to see. She packed her medical bag. I'll document everything for the police, but Mr. Stone was clear we maintain absolute discretion until you're ready to move. By 8 o'clock, my phone was ringing. Nathan's name on the screen made my jaw clench. I let it ring 3 times before answering, making my voice deliberately weak. Hello. Dad. Where are you, Christina? And I came by the house this morning to check on you. When you weren't here, we got worried. The concern in his voice was perfect. Had he practiced it? Or did some part of him actually care, even as he plotted my death? I didn't feel well last night. Stayed at a hotel near the restaurant. I coughed for effect. Didn't want to drive. Still feeling dizzy. Which hotel will come get you? The Fairmont, but I'm going to rest a bit more, maybe head home this afternoon. Nonsense. Christina's already making breakfast. We'll pick you up in 30 minutes. After hanging up, I called Margaret. They're coming. Perfect. Remember, you're getting weaker. The poison from last night is taking effect. Let them think they're winning. Harrison had arranged for my actual suite to remain secret while I checked into a standard room under my own name. When Nathan and Christina arrived, I was sitting on the bed, still in yesterday's clothes, looking every bit the failing old man they expected to see. "Oh, Dad!" Christina cooed, rushing to my side. "You look terrible. We should get you home." Nathan helped me stand his grip firm on my elbow. Probably just too much celebration. That champagne was pretty strong. They exchanged a glance over my head, quick but telling. I leaned heavily on Nathan as we walked to the elevator, noting how he guided me away from the security cameras. They'd thought of everything. Almost. Back at my house, they installed me on the living room sofa, Christina fussing with pillows, while Nathan prepared tea in the kitchen. I used the moment alone with Christina to study her. Knowing what she was made every gesture suspect. The concerned furrow of her brow, the gentle way she adjusted my blanket, all performance. "Nathan's been so worried about you," she said softly. "Especially since you've been working so hard on the sale. He thinks you push yourself too much. Martha used to say the same thing. Her expression shifted minutely, a flash of something calculating before the sympathy returned. She must have been wonderful. Nathan talks about her all the time. A lie. Nathan rarely mentioned his mother had barely visited during her final months. But Christina wouldn't know. That would only know the version of history Nathan had created for her. He returned with tea, watching carefully as I raised the cup to my lips. I pretended to sip, letting the liquid barely touch my lips before setting it down. Stomach's still unsettled. "You need to eat something," Nathan insisted. "Let me make you some toast." While he was gone, I caught Christina checking her watch, calculating how long the thallium would take, or counting down to some other deadline. The next 3 days became an elaborate dance. I grew progressively weaker, spending more time in bed, letting them see me stumble and forget simple things. They moved into the guest house ostensibly to care for me, but really to monitor my decline. Meanwhile, I was far from idle. Harrison had assembled a team that would have impressed my old cybersecurity colleagues. While I napped, they installed cameras smaller than pinheads throughout my house. Marcus Williams, a former Navy SEAL, joined my staff as a gardener working the grounds while keeping watch. Margaret's surveillance revealed every detail of my would-be killer's plans. The most damning evidence came on the second night. I'd taken one of Dr. Reeves's pills that would make me appear deeply asleep while remaining conscious. Through slitted eyes, I watched Nathan enter my bedroom at 3 a.m. He stood over me for a long moment, just watching. Then he spoke so quietly I almost missed it. "I'm sorry it has to be this way, Dad. But you chose the company over us. Over Mom. Do you know she cried every night during that last year, called out for you when you were in Singapore, Tokyo, Seoul? Building your empire while she died by degrees." He pulled something from his pocket. A syringe. My heart hammered, but I forced myself to remain still. He didn't use it, just held it up to the moonlight streaming through the window. "Christina says it'll be peaceful, like going to sleep. Better than what Mom got, all those machines, those tubes. This is mercy, really." He stood there another moment, then slipped the syringe back into his pocket and left. The camera in my bookshelf caught it all, audio enhanced by equipment that could hear a whisper through walls. The next morning, I made a show of trying to review some documents Harrison had sent about the trust arrangements. Nathan found me at my desk. Papers scattered, my handwriting shaky and inconsistent. "Dad, what are you doing?" The trust. Harrison says I need to update my will. Make sure you're taken care of." His eyes lit up before he could stop them. "You don't need to worry about that now. Rest. Get better first." No. With the sale going through, I need to be responsible. Maybe you could help me. You understand these things better than I do." I watched him struggle between greed and caution. Greed won. "Of course, Dad. Whatever you need." I let him see the rough draft I'd prepared, leaving everything to him. $62 million the house, the investments, everything. His hands actually trembled as he read it. "Dad, you don't have to—" "You're all I have left," I said, letting my voice break. "Who else would I leave it to?" Christina appeared in the doorway, and Nathan showed her the papers. Her smile was radiant, the first genuine expression I'd seen from her. This was what she lived for the moment. Her mark signed away everything. "Berkeley, that's so generous," she gushed. "Nathan's been so worried about your future, about making sure you're comfortable. This will ease his mind so much." The irony was breathtaking. They were worried about my future while actively ensuring I didn't have one. That night, I heard them in the guest house, voices carrying through the surveillance equipment. They were giddy already, spending money they hadn't yet stolen. A yacht, properties in Europe, a lifestyle funded by patricide. "How much longer?" Christina asked. "He's fading fast. Maybe 2 more days. We'll use the breakfast cocktail tomorrow, accelerate things. The will's already drawn up. Once he signs it, we increase the dose." "And if he doesn't sign—" "He will. He's feeling guilty about Mom, about all those years focused on work. I've been planting those seeds for months. He'll sign to make amends." They went on to discuss the disposal of my body so matter-of-factly it turned my stomach. Cremation, they decided. Scatter the ashes at sea. No autopsy that way, no evidence. Nathan would play the grieving son, Christina, the supportive daughter-in-law. They'd wait a respectable few months before moving into the main house. Margaret called after they'd gone to bed, updating me on her investigation. "The police are ready to move whenever you give the word. Detective Raymond Carter from the Financial Crimes Division is particularly interested. Apparently, they've been tracking Catherine Mills for 3 years." "Not yet," I told her. "I need them to fully commit. Right now, we have attempted murder. I want conspiracy fraud and enough evidence that neither of them ever sees freedom again. The risk increases every day. Marcus is watching. Dr. Reeves has given me antidotes. I can handle a few more days. But it wasn't the physical risk that kept me awake that night. It was the memory of Nathan as a boy bringing me Father's Day cards, made with construction paper and too much glue. The teenager who'd worked summers at my company, eager to learn the business. The young man who'd stood beside me at his mother's grave, promising we'd get through it together. When had that boy disappeared? Or had he always been capable of this, waiting for the right influence to bring it out? I touched the photo on my nightstand, Martha and me, on our 40th anniversary. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry I didn't see what our son was becoming." But sorry wouldn't save me. Only the silent wolf strategy would, letting them believe they were the predators while I quietly became the hunter. Morning arrived with Nathan's knock on my bedroom door. I'd already taken the medication. Dr. Reeves had provided one that would slow my pulse and make my skin clammy to the touch. The performance of my life was about to begin. "Dad, I've brought your breakfast." I let my voice quaver. "Come in." He entered, carrying a tray, orange juice toast, scrambled eggs, and my morning medications carefully arranged in a small cup. The same breakfast he'd brought me every morning since moving in, each component likely laced with enough thallium to push me closer to death. "How are you feeling?" His concern seemed so genuine I almost doubted myself. Almost. "Weak, very weak. Nathan, I need to talk to you about something important." He set the tray on my nightstand, his movements careful, controlled. "What is it, Dad?" I struggled to sit up, letting him see how difficult even that simple movement had become. "The will. I signed it last night after you went to bed. It's in my desk drawer. I wanted to make sure everything was handled. In case..." His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed. "Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine." "We both know that's not true." I reached for the orange juice with trembling hands, bringing it halfway to my lips before setting it down. "I've been thinking about your mother, about all the time I spent away. You were right to resent me for that." Nope. Let me finish. I've scheduled a meeting with Harrison this afternoon. Want to make sure all the papers are properly filed. Would you drive me? I don't trust myself behind the wheel anymore." The conflict in his eyes was fascinating to watch. Eagerness battled with suspicion, greed wrestling with caution. "Of course. What time?" 2:00. Harrison said he could squeeze us in despite it being Saturday. "I'll have Christina come too, for support." "That would be nice." I managed a weak smile. "You found a good woman's son. Your mother would have loved her." The lie tasted bitter, but his pleased expression made it worthwhile. He believed he'd won, that guilt had made me pliable, ready to sign away everything. He pressed the orange juice into my hands again. "You should drink something. Keep your strength up for the meeting." I took the smallest possible sip immediately, reaching for a tissue to cough into disposing of most of the liquid. "Thank you for taking such good care of me." After he left, I texted Margaret from the burner phone she'd provided. "Meeting set 2:00. Her response was immediate. "Everything's in place." The morning crawled by. I stayed in bed listening through the surveillance equipment as Nathan and Christina prepared for what they believed would be their victory. She was selecting her outfit, professional but grieving, while he practiced his responses for the aftermath. "When they find him tomorrow morning, I'll be inconsolable," he rehearsed. "We just saw the lawyer yesterday. He was so weak but insisted on getting his affairs in order. If only I'd known it was goodbye." "Perfect," Christina coached. "Remember to mention how guilty you feel about not calling an ambulance last night. But he seemed fine when we put him to bed, just tired from the meeting." They planned to increase the dose dramatically in my evening medications, ensuring I never woke up. The signed will would be their insurance policy, making everything legal and clean. No need for forgeries or complicated schemes, just a sick old man who'd had the foresight to prepare for his inevitable end. At 1:30, I made my way downstairs, gripping the banister and pausing every few steps. Marcus was trimming hedges outside my study window, his positioning perfect to intercede if needed. Inside the house, Nathan and Christina fluttered around me like concerned butterflies. "Are you sure you're up for this?" Christina asked, straightening my tie with practiced care. "We could ask Mr. Blackwood to come here instead." No, need to do this properly. In his office, official." Nathan helped me to their car they'd insisted on driving rather than calling my usual service. I noted how he'd disabled the interior door handles in the back seat, a subtle detail that might have gone unnoticed if I hadn't been looking for it. No escape if I suddenly changed my mind. The drive to Harrison's office took 20 minutes. Nathan kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, while Christina maintained a stream of gentle chatter about their plans to redecorate the guest house. Such mundane evil discussing throw pillows while escorting me to what they believed was my legal execution. Harrison's building was one of those gleaming downtown towers that screamed success and discretion. The security guard waved us through. He was expecting us, though not in the way Nathan assumed. In the elevator, I leaned heavily against the wall, closing my eyes. "Almost there, Dad," Nathan said softly. "Just a little further." The 32nd floor was quiet, most of the offices dark on a Saturday afternoon. Harrison's assistant, Julie, met us at the reception desk. I'd known Julie for 20 years. She'd been at my wife's funeral, sent flowers every year on the anniversary. The sympathy in her eyes was real, but not for the reason Nathan thought. "Mr. Blackwood is ready for you," she said, leading us down the hallway. "He's arranged the conference room for privacy." The conference room was large, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. Harrison waited inside, along with another man I pretended not to recognize, Detective Raymond Carter, though he'd been introduced as an associate attorney. The trap was set. Berkeley. Harrison rose his performance as convincing as mine. "You look tired, old friend. Please sit." Nathan guided me to a chair, while Christina took the seat beside me, her hand resting on my arm in a gesture of support. Their positioning was perfect, backs to the door facing the windows. No quick escape route. Harrison spread documents across the table. "I've prepared everything as requested. The will, the trust documents, power of attorney, all requiring just your signature." I picked up the pen with shaking fingers. "Everything goes to Nathan. As specified. The entire estate, all assets, controlling interest in any remaining investments." Harrison's eyes met mine briefly. "Are you certain this is what you want?" "He's my son," I said simply. "Who else would I leave it to?" Nathan's breath caught. Christina's fingers tightened on my arm. This was their moment of triumph, watching me sign away $62 million and my life's work. I bent over the documents, pen poised. Then I set it down. "Actually," I said, my voice suddenly clear and strong, "I've changed my mind." The transformation in their faces was instantaneous. Nathan's careful mask slipped, revealing something ugly underneath. "Dad," I stood, all pretense of weakness gone. "Hello, son. Enjoying the show?" Christina moved first, lunging for the door, but it opened before she reached it. Detective Carter entered, followed by 2 uniformed officers. Her face went white. "Catherine Mills." Carter said calmly, You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder fraud and 3 counts of murder in the first degree. 3 counts. Nathan's voice cracked. What are you talking about, Dad? What is this? I pulled out my phone, Harrison having already queued up the video. Nathan's voice filled the room. He's fading fast. Maybe 2 more days. We'll use the breakfast cocktail tomorrow. Then another recording, this one from my bedroom. Christina says it'll be peaceful, like going to sleep. Better than what Mom got. Nathan sank into his chair as the recordings played. Each damning word, each calculated plan, each casual discussion of my death. Christina had gone silent, her beautiful face, now a mask of cold calculation as she assessed her options. Mr. Berkeley has been under protective surveillance for the past 4 days, Detective Carter explained. Every conversation, every attempted poisoning, every forged document has been recorded and verified. Nathan Berkeley, you're under arrest for attempted murder conspiracy fraud and felony elder abuse. This is entrapment, Nathan shouted, finally finding his voice. He set us up. Actually, Margaret Stone entered the room. Your father did nothing but protect himself from your attempts to murder him. We have the thallium you purchased traced through cryptocurrency, but not as untraceable as you thought. We have the insurance policy you took out the forgery confirmed by 3 handwriting experts. We have Catherine's history, her previous husband's, the pattern so clear a first-year detective could see it. Christina spoke for the first time, her voice different, now harder, without the sweet overlay. I want a lawyer. Of course. Carter nodded to the officers. You'll have plenty of time to call one from booking. As they placed handcuffs on my son, he looked at me with such hatred, it took my breath away. You destroyed everything. Mom died alone because of your ambition, and now you've destroyed me too. No, I said quietly. Your mother died with me holding her hand, taking a leave of absence I never told you about, because you couldn't be bothered to visit. I have the hospital records, the nurse's notes, the photos I took during those final weeks. You invented a narrative to justify your greed, but it was always a lie. Harrison produced another folder. Your father has been meticulous in his devotion to both you and your mother. Shall I show you the trust fund he set up for your children? The one you'd have inherited naturally if you'd just waited $20 million, Nathan. More than enough for any life you could want. The number hit him like a physical blow. Christina turned to stare at him, and I saw the exact moment she realized she'd been playing with an amateur. A greedy, stupid amateur who'd never thought to look beyond the obvious prize. You knew, Nathan whispered. I've known for 3 days. The only question was whether you'd go through with it. I met his eyes. I gave you every chance to stop. Every opportunity to remember you were my son. You chose this. They let him out first, Christina following with her head high, already planning her defense. The room felt impossibly quiet after they left. You all right? Harrison asked gently. No, I admitted. But I'm alive, which is more than they planned. Margaret was studying her tablet. There's something else. The criminals Nathan was supposedly in debt to their actors. Christina hired them through a third party. The entire gambling debt story was fabricated to give Nathan a believable motive. She's been running this exact con for 15 years, Berkeley. You and Nathan were just her latest marks. The full weight of it settled over me. My son had been willing to kill me for money manipulated by a woman who'd made a career of turning sons against fathers. But knowing he'd been manipulated didn't ease the pain. He'd still chosen to pour poison into my orange juice. He'd still stood over my bed with a syringe justifying murder with lies about his mother. What happens now? I asked. Carter had returned after transferring the prisoners. Now we build an airtight case. With the evidence we have, Nathan's looking at 25 to life. Catherine, she'll never see freedom again. 3 murders, 4 attempted murders, fraud across state lines. She'll die in prison. I thought about Nathan as a child, building sandcastles on Stinson Beach, his face bright with accomplishment. That child was gone, had perhaps never really existed outside my hopeful imagination. "Thank you all," I said finally, "for believing me, for helping me survive this. The real question," Margaret said softly, "is what you'll do now. Surviving is just the first step. Living after betrayal like this, that's the real challenge." I looked out at San Francisco Bay, thinking of Martha, of the life we'd built, the son we'd raised who'd chosen darkness. The water stretched endlessly, but somewhere beyond the horizon was still sunshine. I just had to find my way there. The courthouse halls echoed with our footsteps as we made our way to interrogation. Detective Carter had arranged for me to watch Nathan's formal questioning through one-way glass. I didn't have to be there, but some part of me needed to see. It needed to understand how my son had become a stranger. Nathan sat at the metal table. His expensive suit wrinkled his perfectly styled hair, now disheveled. The arrogance from the arrest had faded, replaced by something between panic and disbelief. His lawyer, a public defender named Sarah Chen, sat beside him reviewing notes. Carter entered with another detective, Maria Santos, who specialized in financial crimes. They laid out evidence folders with practiced precision, each movement designed to increase Nathan's anxiety. "Let's start simple," Carter began. "Tell us about the thallium." "I don't know what you're talking about." Santos opened the first folder, spreading out bank records. "Cryptocurrency purchase 3 months ago, converted through multiple exchanges, finally used to buy thallium sulfate from a dark web marketplace. Your laptop had the Tor browser, the wallet addresses, everything." Nathan's lawyer whispered urgently in his ear. He straightened. "I'm not saying anything without immunity." "Immunity?" Carter laughed. "Your father has thallium in his bloodstream. We have you on video poisoning his drinks. We have recordings of you planning his murder. What exactly do you think you have to bargain with?" "It was her idea." The words exploded from Nathan before his lawyer could stop him. "Christina Catherine, whatever her name is, she manipulated me." Santos leaned forward. "Tell us about that." For the next 2 hours, Nathan unraveled. The story that emerged was both pathetic and terrifying. Christina had indeed found him at a financial conference, but he hadn't been some innocent mark. He'd been presenting a seminar on maximizing inheritance through strategic planning. Already teaching others how to manipulate elderly parents. "She approached me afterward," Nathan said. "Said she'd been through something similar with her father. We had coffee talked for hours. She understood my frustration with Dad, how he'd always put the company first." "Your frustration," Carter repeated. "Tell us about that." Nathan's face twisted. He was never there, always traveling, always in meetings. Mom would make excuses, but I knew. The company mattered more than us. From behind the glass, I wanted to scream. I'd missed exactly 3 of his baseball games in 10 years. I'd been at every parent-teacher conference, every science fair, every graduation. But memory, I was learning, could be edited to justify anything. "So Christina understood," Santos prompted. "She got it. Her father had been the same way she said, absent, focused on money. She helped me see that I deserved compensation for all those years of neglect." The interrogation continued, each revelation worse than the last. Christina hadn't just manipulated him, she'd trained him. They'd practiced on smaller marks, first elderly clients at Nathan's firm who trusted him with their portfolios. Nothing fatal, just financial manipulation, skimming from accounts, persuading confused seniors to sign over power of attorney. "How many?" Carter demanded. Nathan's lawyer tried to intervene, but he was past caring. 12, maybe 15. Christina said it was practice for the big score. "Your father?" "My inheritance," Nathan corrected. "He was sitting on $62 million while Mom died. Do you know what her medical bills were? How much home care cost? But he wouldn't sell the company, wouldn't liquidate even a portion, said it would show weakness to investors." I gripped the observation room rail. Martha's care had cost over $2 million, every penny paid without hesitation. I'd offered to sell the company then, but she'd refused. "Don't you dare," she'd said. "You built that for Nathan for his future. Promise me you won't destroy it out of guilt." But Nathan had rewritten history to suit his needs. Santos pulled out another folder. "Let's talk about Thomas Ashford and Robert Dunham." Nathan went still. "Who?" "Christina's previous husbands. Both dead, both shortly after their fathers died in mysterious circumstances." She laid out photos, death certificates, police reports. "Did she ever mention them?" "No." His voice was barely a whisper. "She played you," Carter said bluntly. "The gambling debts we tracked down your supposed creditors. Actors hired through a talent agency that specializes in immersive experiences. The threatening meetings in parking garages, all staged." Nathan's face crumbled as the full scope hit him. "But I saw the debt notices, the casino markers." "Forged. Rather expertly, but forged nonetheless. Christina created your desperation, then offered herself as the solution. Classic long con." "I want to make a deal," Nathan said suddenly. "I'll testify against her. Tell you everything about her methods, her contacts, everything." His lawyer finally spoke up. "My client is willing to cooperate fully in exchange for consideration in sentencing." Carter and Santos exchanged glances. "We'll discuss it with the DA. But Nathan, your cooperation doesn't erase the fact that you tried to murder your father. Multiple times. They left him there broken, and realizing he'd been as much a mark as a perpetrator, I turned away from the glass, unable to watch anymore." Margaret was waiting in the hallway. "Christina's interrogation is more interesting. Want to see a real professional at work?" Part of me didn't. But I followed her to another observation room. Christina sat alone, having refused a public defender. She'd changed somehow her posture. Her expression, even her face, seemed different. The sweet daughter-in-law had vanished, replaced by someone cold and calculating. Carter entered with Santos and a third-person FBI special agent, Diana Reeves, who'd been tracking Christina for years. "Hello, Catherine," Reeves said. "We finally meet." Christina smiled. "I don't know who Catherine is. My name is Christina Berkeley." "No, it's Catherine Mills, born in Riverside, California. Though you've used many names, Christina Morgan Catherine Ashford, Christina Dunham, and now Christina Berkeley. Should I continue?" "I want a lawyer." "Of course. But while we wait, let me tell you what we have." Reeves opened a thick folder. 3 murders confirmed, 2 attempted murders if we count Berkeley, though I suspect the number is higher. Financial fraud exceeding $50 million across state lines. Identity theft, forgery, conspiracy. You're looking at multiple life sentences, possibly federal death penalty for murders involving financial gain. Christina examined her nails. "You have nothing. We have Nathan Berkeley's full confession. 90 minutes of him detailing your every move, every manipulation, every crime you committed together." For the first time, Christina's composure cracked. "That pathetic fool knows nothing. He knows about Thomas Ashford, how you met him at his father's funeral already planning. He knows about Robert Dunham, how you poisoned him slowly with ricin while pretending to nurse him through what doctors thought was lupus. He knows because you told him. Pillow talk, sharing your successes with your latest partner. Hearsay. We have recordings. You and Nathan discussing your methods, comparing notes. You were training him to be your permanent partner, weren't you? Someone to share the work, maybe take the fall if needed." Christina's silence spoke volumes. "Here's what puzzles me," Reeves continued. "You're brilliant. Your cons are masterpieces of psychological manipulation. You could have made millions legitimately. Why murder? Christina looked up, then her eyes empty of anything human. "Because they deserve it. These men who build empires on the backs of their families, who measure love in stock options. Their sons already hate them. I just help them act on it. Is that what you tell yourself?" I found myself speaking, entering the room despite protocol. Everyone turned, but no one stopped me. "That you're some kind of avenging angel. Christina studied me with the dispassion of a scientist examining a specimen. Berkeley, you look better than expected. Nathan said the thallium should have killed you by now. Sorry to disappoint. Are you your son hates you? Your wife died thinking you loved your company more than her. What exactly did surviving gain you? The truth, I said simply. Nathan doesn't hate me. He hates the version of me you helped him create. Martha died knowing exactly how much I loved her, and surviving means you'll never do this to another family. She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. You think I'm unique? There are dozens of us, hundreds maybe. We find the bitter sons, the overlooked daughters, the forgotten spouses. We give them permission to take what they think they deserve. I just do it with more style. The FBI task force suggests otherwise, Reeves interjected. You're one of maybe 5 operators at this level, and you're the only one we've caught alive. Christina's smile faltered. I want that lawyer now. As they processed her out, I stood with Agent Reeves in the hallway. Will Nathan's testimony be enough? Combined with the physical evidence, the recordings, the pattern of crimes, she'll never be free again. Reeves studied me with sympathy. I'm sorry about your son. Sometimes they're victims too in their way. He made his choices, I said. Christina might have guided him, but he held the poison. He stood over my bed with a syringe. That wasn't manipulation, that was attempted murder. Back in Carter's office, the full scope of the investigation laid out before me. 15 elderly victims defrauded by Nathan at his firm. 3 murders by Christina, possibly more. Financial crimes spanning 6 states. The media would have a field day. We'll need you to testify, Carter said. It won't be easy. I know. I thought of facing Nathan across a courtroom detailing his betrayal for strangers to judge. But they need to be stopped. Both of them. Margaret had been quiet throughout, but now she spoke. There's something else. Christina had a storage unit. We found documentation on other potential marks. Your situation wasn't unique. She had files on dozens of wealthy fathers with ambitious sons. You were just the biggest score. I looked at the files. Names, photos, financial statements, psychological profiles. All these fathers who didn't know their sons were being evaluated as potential patricides. All these families, one manipulative woman away from destruction. We'll contact them all, Carter assured me. Warn them at least. As I left the police station, the sun was setting over the city. Nathan and Christina were behind bars, their plan in ruins. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow, carved out by the knowledge that my son had been so easily turned against me. But I was alive. And somewhere in the city, other fathers would get warnings that might save their lives. It wasn't much, but it was something. The hardest truth was accepting that the son I'd loved had perhaps never existed. The Nathan in my memories, loving, loyal, connected, was as much a fiction as Christina's identity. The real Nathan had been waiting for permission to take everything I'd built. Christina had simply given him that permission. The trial began 6 months later on a gray February morning. The media circus outside the courthouse was everything the prosecutors had warned me about. Millionaire's son plots murder, and Black Widow's web of death screamed from every news outlet. I entered through a secure entrance, avoiding the cameras that would have loved to capture the betrayed father's pain. The courtroom was packed. I recognized some faces, employees from my former company neighbors who'd known Nathan since childhood, even as high school baseball coach. They'd all come to witness the unthinkable, a son on trial for attempting to murder his father. Nathan entered in an orange jumpsuit, shackled, his appearance drastically changed. The confident financial advisor was gone, replaced by someone hollow-eyed and gaunt. He'd lost weight in custody, his expensive haircut grown out. When our eyes met, he looked away quickly. Christina's trial was being held separately. Her attorneys had successfully argued that trying them together would prejudice the jury. She'd hired Washington's best defense firm paid for by hidden accounts the FBI was still tracking. Nathan, his assets frozen, relied on public defenders. Assistant District Attorney Michael Winters opened with devastating precision. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about the ultimate betrayal. A son who decided his father's life was worth less than his bank account. A man who smiled at his father over breakfast while poisoning his orange juice. A man who stood over his sleeping father with a syringe ready to commit patricide for money. The evidence was overwhelming. Winters walked the jury through each piece methodically: the surveillance videos, the audio recordings, the toxicology reports showing thallium in my bloodstream. He played Nathan's confession, his voice filling the courtroom as he detailed the murder plot. The defense attorney Sarah Chen fought valiantly. Her strategy was predictable, but necessary blame Christina entirely. Nathan Berkeley was a victim too, she argued, manipulated by a professional con artist who'd killed before, a woman who found his vulnerabilities and exploited them ruthlessly. She called character witnesses Nathan's college friends, former colleagues, people who testified about his previous good character. Each one hurt to listen to these people describing a man I'd thought I'd raised. But their Nathan had disappeared the moment Christina offered him a path to easy wealth. On the third day, I took the stand. Winters led me through the story carefully from the celebration dinner to the moment of arrest. I kept my voice steady, clinical, almost refusing to give the media the emotional breakdown they craved. "How did you feel when you realized your son was poisoning you?" Winters asked. "Like the world had ended," I answered honestly, not afraid of dying but destroyed by who was killing me. Chen's cross-examination was brutal. She questioned my parenting, bringing up every business trip, every missed event she could find. "Isn't it true you were in Tokyo when Nathan won his high school championship?" "Yes." "And in London during his college graduation party?" "The party, yes. I was at the graduation itself." But the party was what mattered to him, wasn't it? The celebration with friends. She was building a narrative of neglect, trying to justify the unjustifiable. I answered each question truthfully, refusing to be baited into anger. The jury would decide if missing a party warranted murder. The worst moment came when Chen played a video from Nathan's phone, Martha in her hospital bed asking where I was. The timestamp showed I'd been in a meeting downtown 20 minutes away. The video cut before showing me arriving 15 minutes later, having broken every traffic law to get there. "Your wife died feeling abandoned," Chen stated. "Objection," Winters shot up. "Counsel is testifying." Sustained. But the damage was done. Some jurors looked at me differently now, perhaps wondering if Nathan's resentment had roots in real pain. Dr. Patricia Reeves testified about the thallium poisoning, explaining how prolonged exposure had nearly destroyed my kidneys. Another 2 weeks, and the damage would have been irreversible. Mr. Berkeley would have died slowly, painfully, appearing to fade from natural causes. Margaret Stone presented the financial evidence, the forged insurance policies, the cryptocurrency transfers, the elaborate money laundering scheme Nathan had constructed. "This wasn't a crime of passion," she stated. "This was months of careful planning of watching his father's health decline while calculating profit margins. The most dramatic moment came when the prosecution played the bedroom surveillance video. The courtroom went silent as Nathan stood over my sleeping form, syringe in hand, whispering his justifications. Several jurors visibly recoiled when he called murder mercy. Nathan's reaction to seeing the video was devastating. He broke down completely, sobbing into his hands. Whether from shame or simply regret at being caught, I couldn't tell. Christina's recorded voice filled the courtroom next, coaching Nathan on grief performance. "Remember, you found him in bed. You tried CPR, but it was too late. Cry, but not too much. You want to seem strong for the lawyers." The defense's case relied heavily on expert witnesses discussing manipulation and coercive control. A psychologist testified about how skilled manipulators could reshape their victim's entire worldview. It was compelling testimony painting Nathan as Christina's puppet. But the prosecution's rebuttal was simple. Nathan had been teaching financial exploitation before meeting Christina. The elderly clients he'd defrauded the seminars on maximizing inheritance all predated her influence. He wasn't corrupted, Winters argued in closing. He was activated. Christina Mills didn't create Nathan Berkeley's greed. She simply gave him permission to act on it. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, Nathan stood shakily as the foreman read the verdict. On the charge of attempted murder in the first degree, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of elder abuse, we find the defendant guilty. The list went on. Guilty on all counts. Nathan collapsed back into his chair as the weight of it hit him. He would spend most, if not all, of his remaining life in prison. At sentencing 2 weeks later, Nathan addressed the court. He'd prepared a statement, hands trembling as he read. I stand here knowing I've destroyed everything that mattered. My father gave me every opportunity, every advantage, and I repaid him with betrayal. I let greed and resentment poison me more thoroughly than any thallium ever could. I don't ask for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I only hope someday to understand how I became someone capable of such evil. Judge Patricia Yamamoto was unmoved. Mr. Berkeley, you've spoken of being manipulated, of making mistakes. But this wasn't a mistake. It was a sustained campaign to murder your father for money. You watched him weaken, saw him trust you to care for him, and continued poisoning him. The court sentences you to 25 years to life, with possibility of parole after 20 years. Nathan was led away without looking back. I sat in the gallery feeling no satisfaction, only a deep emptiness where my son used to be. Christina's trial was different. She'd fired 3 legal teams before finally representing herself, turning the proceedings into a showcase for her intelligence. She cross-examined witnesses, brilliantly finding inconsistencies, creating doubt where none should exist. But the evidence was too strong. 3 murdered husbands patterns too clear to ignore. When the verdict came guilty on all counts, life without parole, she showed no emotion. She'd known from the moment of arrest that her game was over. During victim impact statements at her sentencing, families of her previous victims spoke. Thomas Ashford's sister described how Christina had isolated him from family before his death. Robert Dunham's daughter revealed that Christina had tried to seduce her too, planning to eliminate multiple generations. When my turn came, I kept it simple. You took my son from me as surely as if you'd killed him. Nathan's body may be alive in prison, but the son I raised, loved, and trusted died the day he met you. That's a murder no court can properly punish. Christina watched me with those empty eyes. Your son was always a killer, Berkeley. I just showed him how. As the bailiffs led her away to begin her life sentence, I realized she might be right. The capacity for evil had always existed in Nathan. Christina had simply been the catalyst that revealed it. Outside the courthouse, the media swarmed. I pushed through without comment, climbing into the car Marcus had waiting. The trials were over. Justice served as much as earthly justice could be. 2 predators removed from society, unable to harm other families. But justice and healing, I was learning, were very different things. The law had punished my son and his accomplice. Now I had to find a way to live with the echoes of their betrayal. 6 months after the trials ended, I stood before a small gathering in the conference room of the St. Francis Hotel. The Martha Foundation's first board meeting was about to begin, and the faces around the table were all too familiar with betrayal, each one a survivor of family financial exploitation. Welcome! I began, my voice steady now, with purpose rather than pain. We're here because we've all experienced the unthinkable. We've all had family members try to steal not just our money, but our lives, our trust, our faith in human nature. But we're also here because we survived. And now we can help others do the same. The foundation had been Harrison's idea initially. Turn your pain into purpose, he'd said during one of my darker moments. Martha would want that. She would have. My wife had always found ways to transform suffering into service. During her cancer treatments, she'd organized support groups in the chemo ward. When she could no longer work, she'd mentored young women entering tech. Even dying, she'd focused on others. The Foundation's mission was simple but vital: provide resources for elderly people facing financial exploitation by family members, legal aid, safe housing counseling, and most importantly, a network of people who understood the unique pain of family betrayal. James Watterson, one of our first board members, raised his hand. "I've been reviewing the applications for assistance. We have 43 cases already just from word of mouth." James was 32, a software engineer whose mother had tried to poison him for his startup equity. Margaret Stone had connected us, recognizing kindred spirits in our survival. He'd become like a son to me, not a replacement for Nathan, but proof that chosen family could heal what blood family had broken. 43 families in crisis, said Dorothy Chen, another board member whose daughter had stolen her retirement savings. How do we choose? We don't, I said. We help them all. I've allocated another $10 million from my personal funds. We'll scale up as needed. Over the following months, the foundation grew beyond my wildest hopes. We hired social workers partnered with law enforcement, created educational programs about the warning signs of family financial abuse. Antonio, the security guard who'd saved my life, joined as our head of security, using his instincts to identify potential victims before it was too late. His daughter Maria had indeed graduated from Stanford Business School, her thesis on preventing elder financial abuse inspired by that night at Golden Heights. She joined the foundation as our program director, bringing fresh energy and innovative ideas. 1 year after Nathan's conviction, I received a letter forwarded through the foundation's lawyers. His handwriting was different now, more careful, as if each word required deep thought. "Dear Dad," it began. "I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't if I were you. But my therapist says I need to write it anyway. Need to face who I became and why. I've been diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder with antisocial features. Fancy words for saying I'm selfish and lack empathy. They say it's treatable, that I can learn to feel what I should have felt naturally. I'm trying, Dad. Not for parole, I know I'll die here. I'm trying because I need to understand how I could have looked at you and seen only dollar signs. I teach literacy to other inmates now. Some of them never had fathers, never had anyone who cared. When they ask about mine, I tell them about the man who never missed a science fair, who flew home from Tokyo to see me pitch in the championship game, who held Mom's hand every day during her last month. I tell them about the father I tried to murder. They don't understand how I could have done it, neither do I. Christina didn't make me a monster, Dad. She just gave me permission to be one. The monster was always there waiting. I don't ask for forgiveness. I ask only that you know this, the foundation you created, the lives you're saving. Mom would be so proud. I heard about it from a new inmate whose grandfather was saved because of your warning program. You turned my evil into good. That's who you are. That's who I could have been if I'd chosen differently. Your son, though I know I forfeited that title, Nathan. I read the letter 3 times before filing it away. No response felt adequate. Forgiveness wasn't mine to give, that was between Nathan and whatever God might accept repentance from attempted patricides. But I hoped his work with fellow inmates was genuine, that somewhere in his broken soul, empathy might take root. Christina had been less introspective. She'd been transferred to federal supermax after attempting to manipulate another inmate into killing a guard. Her communications were limited, but reports suggested she spent her time writing perhaps a manifesto, perhaps instructions for the next generation of predators. Evil that pure didn't reform. It simply adapted. The foundation's first major success came 8 months after opening. Eleanor Morrison, a 78-year-old widow, contacted our hotline after discovering her grandson had been slowly draining her accounts. Our rapid response team, led by Antonio, intervened before he could complete a forged property transfer. The grandson was arrested, Eleanor was safe, and another family tragedy was prevented. "You saved my life," Eleanor told me over coffee. "Not just my money, my life. I would have died of heartbreak if Thomas had succeeded." These victories sustained me through the difficult nights when memories of Nathan as a child warred with images of him standing over my bed with poison. I'd had to accept a terrible truth. The son I'd loved had been real but incomplete. The capacity for love and evil had coexisted in him, and when tested, evil won. 3 years after the trial, I stood at Martha's grave on a brilliant spring morning. The foundation had just celebrated saving its 500th victim, and I'd brought her favorite roses, yellow for friendship, white for new beginnings. He wrote again, I told her gravestone. Says he's getting a psychology degree, wants to counsel other inmates about family violence. His therapist thinks he's making real progress. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees, and I could almost hear Martha's voice. People can change, Berkeley. Not always, not completely, but sometimes enough. I'm trying to believe that, I continued. For my own peace, if nothing else. The anger was killing me slowly more effectively than his thallium ever could. I had to let it go. A butterfly landed on the roses, a monarch orange and black, beautiful and poisonous to predators. Martha had loved butterflies, seeing them as proof that transformation was possible, that something earthbound could learn to fly. My phone buzzed. James texting about a new case, a 90-year-old man whose son was pressuring him to sign over power of attorney. Work to be done, lives to save, purpose to fulfill. As I walked back to my car, I reflected on the strange journey from that night at Golden Heights. I'd lost a son, but gained a mission. Lost my naive trust, but found deeper wisdom. Lost the family I'd thought I had, but discovered the family I'd chosen. The money from selling my company had meant everything to Nathan and Christina worth killing, for worth destroying sacred bonds. But money was just a tool. In their hands, it had been a weapon. In mine, through the foundation, it had become a shield protecting others from predators like them. I thought of all the fathers and mothers who'd sleep safely tonight, because our warning systems had identified threats. All the inheritances that would pass peacefully to loving children instead of being stolen by greedy ones. All the Christina Millses who would fail because we'd taught their targets to see through manipulation. My phone rang. Detective Carter, now a close friend. Berkeley thought you should know. Catherine Mills was found dead in her cell this morning. Apparent suicide, though, with her, who knows? I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sorrow. Christina had been a force of pure predation, and the world was safer without her. But her death changed nothing for her victims. Thomas Ashford and Robert Dunham were still dead, their fathers still murdered. Evil's end didn't undo evil's work. Thanks for letting me know, I told Carter. How's Nathan taking it? Hard. Despite everything, he seemed to think she'd eventually confess to manipulating him, help reduce his sentence. Naive to the end. After we hung up, I sat in my car for a long moment. Christina was gone, but there would be others. The Foundation's work would never end because human greed would never end. But each life saved, each family protected, each tragedy prevented, they all mattered. That evening, I hosted dinner for the Foundation staff at my home. The house that had once echoed with emptiness now filled with laughter and purpose. Antonio's daughter Maria had brought her new fiancé. James was excitedly discussing expansion plans. Dorothy Chen had baked her famous lemon cake. As I watched this chosen family gather around my table, I realized the deepest truth. Nathan and Christina had tried to kill me for money, but they'd actually given me something priceless. They'd taught me that family isn't about blood, it's about who shows up, who protects you, who transforms shared pain into shared purpose. A toast. I raised my glass of orange juice. Yes, I could drink it again without flinching. To Martha, who always believed good could come from evil. To the 537 people we've helped so far. And to the thousands more we'll save in the years to come. To Berkeley, Antonio added, who turned the worst betrayal into the best legacy. As glasses clinked around the table, I felt Martha's presence strongly. Not a ghost, but a warmth and approval. This was what she'd want. Not bitterness over Nathan's betrayal, but action preventing others' betrayals. Not mourning the family lost, but celebrating the family found. The sun set over San Francisco Bay, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Somewhere Nathan was teaching a fellow inmate to read. Somewhere Christina's victims' families were finding peace in her death. And here in this house that had nearly been a murder scene, life and love continued. My phone buzzed with another case, another family in crisis, another chance to save someone from the fate I'd barely escaped. I smiled, genuinely smiled, and got back to work. The money never mattered. The betrayal had nearly broken me. But purpose was priceless. And every life saved was a victory over the darkness Nathan and Christina had tried to bring. That's the ultimate revenge against those who try to kill for money, using that very money to save others from killers. Nathan had thought $62 million was worth patricide. Instead, it had become the foundation for hundreds of rescues, thousands of preventions, countless futures protected. In trying to steal my wealth, they'd revealed my true worth, and that worth had nothing to do with dollars. To everyone listening to my story, I want to leave you with this question. Have you checked in with your elderly loved ones lately? Do you know who has access to their finances, their medications, their trust? Family exploitation is more common than you think, and the warning signs are often subtle. Sudden new relationships, increased attention from previously distant relatives, unexplained changes in health or behavior. If something feels wrong, trust your instincts. Reach out for help. Organizations like the Martha Foundation exist nationwide, ready to assist. Don't wait until it's too late. If this story has touched you, please share it with others who might need to hear it. Like and subscribe to spread awareness about family financial exploitation. And comment below with your own experiences or questions. Building a community of awareness is how we protect each other. Thank you for listening to my journey from betrayal to purpose. May you never need the lessons I learned. But if you do know that survival is possible, justice is achievable, and sometimes the greatest revenge is simply living well and helping others do the same. Remember, love your family, but verify their intentions. Trust, but protect yourself. And never ever ignore a security guard who says they saw someone pour something into your drink. Stay safe, stay aware, and stay connected to those who truly love you. With gratitude and hope for your safety, Berkeley.